New York never sleeps, but Daniel Mercer had always believed his home on East 74th Street was the exception. A quiet tree-lined block tucked between the endless pulse of the Upper East Side, it was where he and his wife, Emily, built a life he once thought unshakable. Their brownstone was narrow but full of warmth, the kind of place where you could hear the dishwasher hum and the old hardwood creak as the building settled into the night. Tonight, however, nothing settled. At 2:14 a.m., Daniel woke with a jolt, the sensation sharp and inexplicable, like someone had whispered his name in a dream and pulled him from it. He lay still, listening. There was no noise from the street. No sirens, no taxis leaning on their horns, not even the usual faint rumble of the subway beneath the pavement. Instead, there was something else. Emily wasn't beside him. Her side of the bed was cold. Not warm from someone recently having been there, cold. Daniel pushed himself upright, heart thudding as he glanced at the bedroom door, cracked open just 2 inches. A pale stripe of hallway light spilled onto the floorboards. He swung his legs over the edge of the bed and stood. Voices. Faint. Whispered. Not coming from inside the apartment, but coming through the window. He moved toward it, barefoot, stepping carefully to avoid the squeaky plank near the dresser. The voices grew clearer. Emily. Outside. Talking to someone on the sidewalk below. He reached the window just in time to see her, hair half up, half tousled, as if she had rushed out in the middle of the night, standing on the corner beneath the street lamp. Opposite her stood a man in a charcoal coat. Daniel's pulse hammered. Emily lifted her hand and placed it on the man's chest. A familiar, intimate gesture. Then the man leaned in. Not a full kiss. Something closer. Something worse. A secret. Daniel stumbled back from the window as though physically struck. He pressed a shaking hand to his mouth, trying to quiet the ragged breath threatening to choke him. Who is he? What is she doing? Why is she out there at 2 a.m? Who is that man? Emily returned 5 minutes later. The front door lock clicked softly. Her steps were cautious, too cautious, as she made her way upstairs. Daniel slipped back into bed just before she opened the bedroom door. Dan, she whispered. You awake? He kept his eyes closed, barely. Pretending to stir. Pretending not to know that something had just shifted between them forever. She crawled into bed beside him and wrapped an arm around his waist, her body cold from the January air. The cold made him flinch. Had trouble sleeping, she murmured. Went for a walk. He didn't respond. And she didn't notice. Outside, the city exhaled, a gust of wind rattling the loose gutter on the townhouse across the street, and Daniel felt, for the first time, that New York had become a stranger. Daniel and Emily met 8 years earlier in a Manhattan coffee shop where the ceilings were too high and the lighting too dim. She was reading a dog-eared paperback of Fitzgerald, he was waiting for a client who never showed. She smiled at him first, he always remembered that, and he had been lost from that moment. They married 2 years later at a small ceremony in Central Park, a soft autumn sunlight turning the leaves gold. Emily promised him adventure, laughter, a life built on partnership. Daniel promised her stability, love, and unwavering support. For years, they had been good together. Not perfect, New York was too demanding to allow perfection, but good. Quiet mornings reading the Times. Late-night ramen in Murray Hill after Daniel's investment firm closed late. Emily's silly tradition of celebrating small victories, like finding a taxi during peak hours or getting a seat on the subway. Their life was small but genuine. Which made everything now feel even sharper. In the days following that icy January night, Daniel tried to convince himself that what he had seen was nothing. A misunderstanding. A coincidence. A brother. A coworker who needed comfort. But those explanations crumbled quickly. Emily became different. Her phone was always upside down on the table. She smiled at messages she never explained. She worked late 3 times in 1 week, despite having a job at a midtown art gallery that normally closed at 6 sharp. She had new clothes he didn't recognize. A different perfume. And the most damning shift of all, she had stopped kissing him goodnight. Not consciously. Not maliciously. But the habit was gone. One night, she came home with her cheeks flushed, breath warm with the scent of dark wine. "Good day?" Daniel asked, trying to sound casual. It was fine. She brushed past him, her voice too light, too airy. Long tiring. But Emily had never been good at lying. She moved toward the shower. He watched her set her phone carefully on the bathroom counter, screen glowing with a message preview before she shut the door. Tonight was perfect. I can still feel you. Daniel felt the world tilt. His stomach twisted. Something inside him hardened, crystallized into a cold certainty. This wasn't his imagination. This wasn't stress. This wasn't harmless. His wife, the woman he promised to protect, cherish, support, was cheating on him. New York had always felt like a city of possibility, but now it felt like a city of shadows. Daniel found himself noticing things he would have ignored before: strangers lingering on corners, couples entwined in whispered conversations, the possibility of secret lives happening behind every townhouse door. Emily's deception became a ghost that followed him through the day. At work, spreadsheets blurred into a haze of numbers he couldn't concentrate on. At lunch, walking through Bryant Park, every couple holding hands felt like an accusation. On the subway ride home, he replayed that night in January on an endless, nauseating loop. Who was the man? How long had this been going on? Why? He thought about confronting her, spilling everything in one explosive outburst. But something stopped him. If this was happening, he wanted to know the truth. All of it. Not a half-confession born of guilt. Not a teary apology designed to minimize the damage. He wanted the full betrayal laid bare. And so Daniel began to watch. Not obsessively. Not cruelly. Simply, quietly. He paid attention. He noticed small details. He tracked her schedule. New York taught everyone how to observe. The city trained its residents to be aware, alert, cautious. And now Daniel was using that skill against the woman he loved. On a Thursday evening, when the gallery allegedly had a new exhibit requiring late setup, Daniel left the office early and took the Lexington Avenue line downtown. He walked to the gallery, blending into the early evening crowd. The lights were off. Closed. No staff. No exhibit. Just a small sign taped to the door, closed for the week due to maintenance. His breath froze in his chest. Emily appeared 10 minutes later, not from the gallery, but from the opposite direction. Laughing. Her hair tousled. Her coat unbuttoned. She stepped into a taxi without looking up, giving the driver an address. Daniel hailed another immediately. "Follow that cab." The driver smirked. "Like in the movies, huh?" Exactly like that. The taxi trailed hers through midtown traffic, weaving between buses, passing Rockefeller Center, turning downtown. Her cab stopped in Tribeca. Emily climbed out. She looked radiant. Happier than she had in weeks at home. And then the man appeared. The same charcoal coat. The same hair, dark, trimmed close. He walked up behind her, wrapped an arm around her waist, and kissed her neck. Daniel gripped the seat so tightly his knuckles whitened. The driver glanced back. "You okay, man?" He didn't answer. The couple entered a building with exposed brick and wrought iron balconies, expensive, new, sophisticated. They didn't come out for hours. Daniel waited. Frozen. A man inside his own nightmare. When they emerged close to midnight, the man kissed her goodbye. She touched his face tenderly before leaving, more tenderness than she had shown Daniel in months. He didn't follow her home. He just sat there, staring at the building, trying to remember how to breathe. The name came easily once Daniel decided to dig. New York was vast, but its social circles were small, especially among Emily's acquaintances in the art and fundraising world. The man was Adrian Cole, a wealthy real estate developer known for modernizing historic buildings and hosting exclusive charity events. 41, charming, recently divorced. He donated to Emily's gallery occasionally. Daniel's stomach turned. So it wasn't random. Not some fleeting affair. Not a meaningless lapse. Emily had fallen into the arms of a man with influence, money, connections, someone who could offer her all the excitement Daniel feared he no longer could. Once Daniel had Adrian's name, more details surfaced like rotten wood under peeling paint. Their affair had been going on for months. Friends had seen them at events without Daniel. Her working late nights always matched his openings, his charity dinners, his penthouse parties. The betrayal was woven neatly into their daily lives. And Daniel had missed all of it. What do you do when everything you believed is a lie? On a gray February afternoon, as freezing rain drizzled through the streets, Daniel sat in a quiet corner of Central Park, staring across the nearly empty expanse of benches and paths. His gloves soaked, his breath forming little clouds, he felt hollow. Not angry. Not even heartbroken. Just empty. He imagined confronting her. Screaming. Throwing her things out the window. Demanding answers. But that wasn't who he was. And Emily didn't deserve the theatrics. She deserved something else. The truth. Or rather, to face the consequences of ignoring it. On a Friday night, when Emily returned home late again, Daniel was waiting in the living room. No television. No book. Just him, sitting upright, hands folded, posture unnervingly calm. Emily froze at the door. Dan. You're home early. He looked at her carefully. Where were you? She blinked. Work. I told you. The gallery's been closed all week. Silence. Emily's mouth parted slightly, her face paling. What? I went there. I saw the sign. I waited. Her hand trembled as she hung her coat. Dan, please. Who is he? Her breath hitched. And then, in the very worst moment, she tried to lie again. There's no one else. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. I saw you. Her fingers went limp. Her purse dropped to the floor with a dull thud. He continued, voice steady in a way that frightened her. In Tribeca. The building on West Broadway. You were with him for hours. Emily staggered back as though struck. Dan. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, I didn't want. What? To hurt me? Or to get caught? Tears welled in her eyes. It was supposed to end. I tried. I really tried. He stood. And she fell silent. Do you love him? He asked. Emily hesitated. And in that tiny, devastating pause, Daniel had his answer. She sat on the couch, shaking, while Daniel remained standing, arms crossed, expression unreadable. I never meant to fall for him, she whispered. It just happened. He was going through his divorce. I was helping him with an exhibition. One night we had too much wine and... Stop. She swallowed the rest. Daniel's voice softened, unexpectedly, painfully. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to lose you. But you did anyway. Her tears spilled. She reached out a trembling hand. Dan, please. I still love you. He stepped back. No, he said. You love the idea of me. The safety. The life we built. But you don't love me enough to choose me. Emily broke into sobs. Daniel walked past her and entered the bedroom. He opened the closet, pulled out a suitcase, and set it on the bed. She appeared moments later, breath shaking. Dan, please don't do this. Please. We can fix it. We can try. You already made your choice, he said. Now I'm making mine. Daniel didn't scream. He didn't break things. He didn't beg. He simply acted. Quietly. Methodically. Fatally. He called a lawyer the next morning, a specialist in high-asset divorces. Daniel wanted everything done cleanly, legally, decisively. New York didn't reward the emotional, it rewarded the strategic. He froze their joint accounts. He locked her out of their shared credit cards. He gathered evidence, messages, photos, timelines. He gave it all to his attorney. Emily moved into a small sublet in Brooklyn temporarily, her voice small and pleading each time she called. Daniel didn't answer. She emailed. He didn't respond. She appeared outside his building once. He didn't let her in. Meanwhile, Adrian Cole issued a public statement 2 weeks later announcing his engagement, to someone else entirely. A 29-year-old heiress. Emily saw it in the Times. Her world shattered. She tried calling Daniel again, sobbing into the voicemail. Apologizing. Begging for forgiveness. Admitting she had been used. Saying she wanted to come home. But home no longer existed. Daniel felt sadness, deep, heavy, but not regret. He had given her everything. She had thrown it to the wind. 3 months later, on a strangely warm spring afternoon, Daniel and Emily sat in a small Manhattan divorce office overlooking the Hudson. Their lawyers handled the paperwork, flipping through pages, recommending signatures. Emily's hands trembled as she initialed box after box. Daniel remained steady. When it was done, she looked at him, pale, broken, but still beautiful in that familiar, haunting way. Dan, she murmured. I never stopped loving you. He considered her quietly. And for the first time, he didn't feel anger. Just distance. We loved who we used to be, he said. Not who we became. Tears streamed down her cheeks. He stood, offering her a final kindness, a small nod, nothing more. Goodbye, Emily. She whispered it back, voice barely audible. The lawyers shook hands. Papers were filed. Rings were removed. A marriage ended. Months passed. The city softened again. The nights grew calmer. Daniel rediscovered the small joys, late-night pizza from Joe's, walks through Central Park, the feeling of possibility in the air after a fresh rain. Pain faded slowly, but it faded. New York was a city built on reinvention. And Daniel reinvented himself. One warm June morning, he sat at a cafe on the Upper West Side, reading the Times, when a woman approached and asked if the seat next to him was taken. She had kind eyes. A calm voice. Nothing like Emily, and yet something about her felt right. He smiled. And for the first time in a long time, the smile felt real. Daniel never forgot what happened. He never forgot the night he woke to a cold bed. The man under the street lamp. The lies wrapped in soft perfume. The betrayal buried in quiet corners of Manhattan. But he also never forgot the lesson. Love demands honesty. Loyalty demands courage. And betrayal demands consequences. New York swallowed secrets whole, but it also returned them to the surface eventually. Daniel survived them. And then, he moved on.